O divine Creator, as we gather in this place, our hearts and minds turn to our common purpose. To be a collegiate community who strives to cultivate whole persons, who live as concerned members of the world. We lift grateful hearts today for the spirit of wisdom, which shaped our founders and continues to breathe life onto this campus. We give thanks for Stella Čapek and for the contribution she has made to the life of this college. She embodies so well the virtues of justice and compassion, and we hold her up as an exemplar to acknowledge the dedicated teaching that we greatly value here at Hendrix. As we recognize in this hour her gifts, may we also feel encouraged in our own vocations. Inspire us to lead lives of accomplishment, integrity, service, and joy. Amen.
Well, good morning. Welcome to one of the happiest rituals of academic life, the installation of a colleague and friend as a distinguished professor. It is an honor and a joy to be with you here today as we recognize and congratulate Dr. Stella Čapek, the Elbert L. Fausett Distinguished Professor of Sociology. Before coming to Hendrix, I cannot remember ever having a colleague who shared a title with the name of a building on campus, but I trust she will not be overwhelmed with mail addressed to the development office or the English department, and that the elevator and photocopier technicians who seem to be incessant visitors to Fausett Hall will not just turn up at her office seeking, however unsuccessfully, to repair her. When I first arrived as a freshly minted assistant professor at the University of Kansas in the fall of 1993, one of the first people I met was my predecessor specializing in modern Japanese history, who had taught at KU for 27 years, and at that point was 4 years into what would end up being a very long retirement. He was at the time, and I would come to understand, had been from the very moment of his birth, an outgoing, engaging, energetic, occasionally very generous, and endlessly rather difficult individual. As a scholar, his output of books, edited collections, articles, chapters, and reviews was phenomenal, as was, as anyone who knew him can testify, his self-regard. For all his redeeming qualities, and there were many, my predecessor lived in a tidy Copernican imaginary where all of the knowable universe revolved unchangingly and only appropriately around him. But for all the honors bestowed on him over a long career, a medal from the Japanese emperor, a certificate from the Philippine president, an award here, an accolade there, he never achieved that juiciest of academic plums, a distinguished professorship. And it clearly always annoyed him. From the time I first shook his hand until his death in 2014, he invariably introduced himself as an extinguished professor of Japanese history. Smiling but gritting his teeth, almost always eliciting a laugh, but delivered with a kind of assertive self-effacement and thinly veiled umbrage that was hard to overlook. I do wish our colleagues in the powers that be had seen fit at some point to install him in a chair of his own, as he was truly deserving, but I also wish they'd done that for my sake, as I am one of those people who winces or groans at every pun, and I spent literally decades wincing and groaning at that same darn one. Now, to those beyond the ivory tower, of course, and perhaps even to a good many folks within it, there might not be that much open water between a professor who is X and one who is distinguished. Being named to a distinguished professorship is often seen as the crowning achievement of a long career, a marker of stamina as well as excellence, a certificate of completing the marathon as well as a medal for winning the sprints, another step on that progression from assistant, associate, in full on to emeritus or emerita. But as I have said before, and I expect I will say at every event of this nature I have the honor at presiding over, being awarded a distinguished professorship is something truly special. It is the highest professional honor of the Academy, a recognition given by one's peers to a vanishingly small number of the members of our scholarly tribe, a marker of accomplishment and quality and commitment and distinction in a community rich in dedicated, celebrated, highly respected overachievers. Becoming a distinguished professor is not something inevitable for those of us in the Academy. It is not something you can plan for or count on. There is no checklist you must complete, no prescribed set of hoops you must jump through, no cosmic egg timer that eventually rings and adds the name of some all but forgotten donor to your title, your business card, and your CV. It is not something achieved in a semester or a year or a decade, but over a career. It is earned in rare moments of glory, the book, the grant, the fellowship, the administrative post, the exceptional student, and in the daily routine of classes and faculty meetings, advising appointments and departmental retreats, in the insanity of April and the reflective months of the summer. Despite what some may assume, being elevated to a distinguished professorship is not really the end of anything. Not of a career of great achievement, not of that recurrent drumbeat of teaching and grading and mentoring, not of the deadlines and demands and rewards of scholarship, not of the merry-go-round of committees and task forces and office hours, not of leadership and responsibility, of setting a high example, of living what you profess, of inspiring and uplifting your students and your peers alike. A distinguished professorship is not an end. Not just the last professional stop before the gold watch and the Medicare card, but a beginning for a new adventure, a new challenge, a new opportunity to serve and lead and learn and teach. Importantly, becoming a distinguished professor is not just a rare and wonderful affirmation of professional accomplishment for the individual so honored, but it is also a reflection on the larger community. A statement of our collective high standards, of our aspirations for ourselves, and of our collegial pride and delight in the well-deserved recognition of one of our own. To gather now for the installation of a new distinguished professor is a singular moment, not just for one scholar and teacher, mentor, role model, and friend, but for all of us as a faculty, a campus, and a community. Let me now then turn the podium over to the provost to introduce Dr. Čapek. Congratulations, Stella, and thank you all.
It is my distinct pleasure to provide the introduction for Stella M. Čapek and a quick overview of our event today. As you all know, we are here today to install Stella as the Elbert L. Fausett Distinguished Professor of Sociology. She follows a line of distinguished faculty who have held this professorship before: George Thompson, Bob Esslinger, and most recently, Tom Goodwin. The Elbert L. Fausett Professorship was created in recognition of the generous philanthropy of Elbert L. Fausett, a leading Arkansas realtor and businessman who was a benefactor and a longtime friend of Hendrix College. And as Bill alluded to earlier, his name also graces one of the buildings on campus. Stella Čapek joined the Hendrix faculty in 1986 when replacing retiring Professor Ferris Baker. Building on earlier efforts by former colleague Jim Bruce, she played a major role in sustaining and expanding the college's original two-person sociology department into the current Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Her areas of interest include interdisciplinary environmental studies, sustainable community design, social justice issues, and creative writing. Her courses have covered a wide variety of topics, including sociology of the environment, food, cities, gender, medicine, social movements, social theory, and research methods. She has also taught in the Hendrix Summer Semester program in Costa Rica and designed a creative writing course exploring nature writing. Čapek attended Carleton College and Boston University as an undergraduate, receiving a BA in Soviet and Eastern European Studies from Boston University in 1975. Following international travel and employment as an English language editor at the Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research, she received an MA in 1981 and PhD in 1985 in sociology from the University of Texas at Austin. She taught sociology at the university and at Austin Community College during that time. She joined the Sociology and Anthropology Department at Southwestern University in Georgetown, Texas, for 1 year before coming to Hendrix College. Čapek's professional service spans local, state, and national activities, including election as chair of the section on environment and technology of the American Sociological Association, president of the Arkansas Sociology and Anthropology Association, and board member of the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. Besides published articles, she has co-authored 2 books: Community versus Commodity, Tenants in the American City, published in 1992, and Come Lovely and Soothing Death, The Right to Die Movement in the United States, published in 1999. She also authored a history and social change guide for the Endometriosis Association in 2006. Čapek was the recipient of the 2005-2006 Exemplary Teacher Award from the Methodist Church General Board of Higher Education and Ministry for exemplifying excellence in teaching, civility and concern for students and colleagues, commitment to value-centered education, and service to students, the institution, and the community. To speak to Stella's contributions to the college and our community, we have asked today Jay McDaniel, Henrietta Vanneman, and Hannah Davis to talk about their experiences with Stella. Jay.
So Stella and I have known each other for 30 years. And when I was asked to say something about her, I was really excited. I've admired her from the get-go. So I wrote something. And I liked what I wrote. And Provost Bonbright had said, make it 3 to 6 minutes. But I didn't pay any attention to that. And I shared it with Stella the other day. And then I tried it out this morning. And it was 20 minutes. So I'm going to give you the thumbnail version. But there's so much that I would like to say about Stella. I think we all carry a kind of mental scrapbook of Stella. At least I do. Those of us who know her have memories, images, ideas we have gained from her. And I certainly have a scrapbook. And one of my scrapbook has lots of chapters, but one of the chapters is called Stella as Teacher. Another chapter is called The Joyful Side of Stella. And the third chapter is called Stella as Friend. And I would like to give you an image for each of those chapters. Now, the Stella as Teacher, I've co-taught with Stella, so I know what she is like in the classroom. I know the way she engages students. I've also had so many students that have had Stella. And sometimes I think I have original ideas in class, but I've been disabused of that. I can't count the number of times I said to a student in eco-theology, hey, you might think about this or that. And they say, oh yes, we learned that in Dr. Čapek's class. It happens again and again. I hear about the richness of her classes and what they do for people. Images of the city, food, nature, and culture, intro to sociology, exploring nature writing. But there's a story of Stella that I find so interesting, given that she's such a good teacher. And this is the image, the first image I'll share. It was in 1985, when she was about to receive her PhD at the University of Texas at Austin. And Stella had not expected to go into teaching. As a matter of fact, by her report, she was terrified of the idea of teaching. To paraphrase Stella, I'm an introvert. I don't want to be in the spotlight. I don't want to be famous. I just want to do research for the good of the world, read literature, listen to music. That's what I want to do. But she had to take a course in teaching to get her PhD. And it involved giving a lecture in front of a class and it being videotaped and critiqued. Now this is a Stella Čapek nightmare. And so when she did it, according to her report, she went up there in fear and trembling, and she thought she might die. And so in the middle of her lecture, all of a sudden, she had this visceral revelation, almost physical. I told her it was a lightning bolt from heaven, and she said, no, it was a wind from northern Minnesota. But the visceral feeling was, I can do this. I can do this. Now, as I told the story to somebody else, I added, I want to be a teacher. But I told it to Stella, and she said, no, it was just, I can do this. I love that story because that's Stella's near-death experience, and I think Hendrix College is immensely lucky that she had that near-death experience. Another thing I know about Stella is the joyful side of Stella. Now, as a religious studies person, I always use the word sacred. Where do you find the sacred? We talk about that a lot. But I've seen it. We don't need to talk about it. I know where she finds the beautiful, the important, the holy, if you will. One place that I've seen it is at Mark Sutherland's house. When the folk faculty gets together and we practice some songs. There's 5 or 6 or 7 of us. And we're singing along, some ex-Hendricks professors, some current professors, this, that, and the other. And Stella comes. And we all say, Stella, will you sing Joni Mitchell's Circle Game? And Stella will go like this. Oh, no. No. You can picture it. No. The arms usually go out. No. No, Stella, please sing it. Oh, no. Then she sings it. And she gives her heart to it. And she hears something in that sing-along music. Actually, she told me this. She said, it's the harmonies. And when I hear the harmonies, I hear the possibility of a togetherness amid differences. And it touches me. So I think one of Stella's, the joyful side of Stella is certainly in music. Another joyful side of her that you may or may not know is northern Minnesota. The landscapes, the waterways, that's her sacred place. That's where she feels at home. That's what she knows. Another dimension of Stella is creative writing. Now, she has written her share of academic articles. She knows what to do. But where she comes alive is in creative writing, and it's nonfiction. She loves to write essays. Nonfiction, but allow you to flow and explore. And she writes very, very well. And then there's food. Whenever I think of Stella, I think of food. I actually think of eating. But Stella takes it a bit further. She's interested in food culture. She's interested in the relationships that emerge in and around food. Relationships of friendship, of gladness, of solidarity. So the joyful side of Stella, food, music, landscapes, that kind of thing. There's that whole side of her. Joy is the last word in our statement of purpose. I think Stella exemplifies that. Now the third chapter in my little scrapbook is called Stella the Friend. When I first met Stella, I thought, what an interesting last name. I have been reading a philosopher named Čapek, who's one of my heroes, and he's written books on the philosophy of Alfred North Whitehead. And I just think he's brilliant. And all of a sudden, a colleague shows up, and her last name is the same. And so I go up to Stella and I say, hi, I'm Jay McDaniel, I'm in religious studies. Interestingly, I know a philosopher named Čapek, and I just think the world of his writings. And she says, he's my father. I said, really? Really? We left it at that. That didn't come out right. We continued that course of discussion. No, that didn't come out right either. But I knew that meant a lot to me, and this is the friend that Stella has been to me. So when her father got sick, he moved to Little Rock, and so did her mom. And when he died, Stella said, would you come give the homily? Would you come give the homily at my father's funeral? And I did. That may sound like an honor to me, but it was a gift from Stella. And that's the kind of friend she is. She sees things that would be good for people, and she reaches out, and she does things for them. Now, she doesn't want to be famous. I'm going to add another little image to my ongoing scrapbook of Stella Čapek, and it's going to be this event. But I just want to say how proud her mom and dad are of her, and we are, and it's great to have her.
Okay, well, that's a hard act to follow. First, if any of you don't know who I am, I'm the program manager for the Hendricks Murphy Foundation. I think most of you know me. But anyway, Stella asked me to say if I would say a few words about her, and I was so flattered and honored. And it's like, hey, that's great. I'm excited to tell people what a fabulous person Stella is. And then I was like, uh-oh, that means I have to get up on this side of the podium. I don't normally do that. You will find me out there getting the reception, making sure everything's working in here for whoever is on this side of it. My job's been, like sound check. That's about the extent of it. So, but it's for Stella. Stella wanted me to, and I'm here. So I worked for Hendricks Murphy for 15 years, and I think Stella's been here a tad bit longer. Tad bit longer than that. So she's been involved with Murphy programs ever since I've been here. And she was a member of our program committee back when we had a program committee. She was on that, I met her there, and she's been taking students on, we had Murphy Away programs, and we're taking students away. But anyway, she was part of that. She took students on trips, and that's for her nature writing program. She turned that into a course for her sociology. It was a Murphy Away program originally. And then, of course, that's cross-listed now with an English department course. Okay, she joins our reading groups. When we have reading groups, when we're having someone, a visitor, come in, and people as diverse as Louise Glick and Edwin Stanka. She's interested in all of them. She's hosted our speakers in her classroom, Sayantani Dasgupta, visitor medicine and culture class. These are just some of, she joined the favorite poem reading. We kind of joke and say she's kind of a Murphy program poster, not poster child, but poster professor. And I love working with Stella. And I admire her for a number of reasons. But her dedication to students is number one. She is so dedicated to them. There have been several evenings when we'd be cleaning up after a reception in Mills Lobby. And Stella would come from her office down that long hallway, 9 o'clock. She's taking a break from grading papers. And she'd chat for a little bit, but then she turns around and goes right back to her office. She's back to the students' work. She's meticulous, she's dedicated, and to me it's no wonder she's being awarded this distinguished professorship. And speaking of reception, we have a thing. She attends all these Murphy events, and we always have, those of you who've been to them, we have a reception afterwards. We're all about feeding the people. So I would go around taking candid shots here and there of people at the reception, and I realized that nearly every one of them that I had Stella in, she was eating something. So then it kind of became a thing. I just started trying to catch her. But she was kind of like a hummingbird. She was all around. She was a little bite here, a little bite there, a little bite somewhere else. And so I'm trying to catch her and get her photo. I had her with everything, veggies, cheese, crackers, whatever, a whole cream puff one time. So then, like I said, that kind of became a thing. And then Stella, rather than being like, oh, don't do that, she began to pose for me. So they got even more fun. And so right now I have a folder on my computer, but I'm not going to do that now, of all these photos of Stella. And whenever we get around to having a Stella roast, I've got the photos. So anyway, her sweet smile too is so inspiring. It always makes me smile too. You can't not smile when Stella's smiling. And that's the other part of the hummingbird is her strength and energy. She's always moving. She's always on her way to somewhere, like carrying her environmentally friendly stoneware bowl over to the cafeteria. Or she's headed to class, or headed over to the WAC to work out. And I've heard tales of her weightlifting prowess. And I know about her strength personally from practicing yoga with Stella. Stella is amazing at that too. She is just graceful, strong, and I say what grace, this this hummingbird, grace and strength this hummingbird has. So anyway, congratulations, Stella. I think this is fabulous for her. And I understand there's a reception afterwards. There'll be lots of photo ops.
My name is Hannah Davis, and I'm a recent graduate from Hendrix. And I first met Dr. Čapek in the spring of 2016, the second semester of my junior year. And I was back at Hendrix after spending a semester abroad, which meant that my schedule was all filled up with upper-level classes for my environmental studies major. And two of those classes happened to be taught by Dr. Čapek, the urban community and exploring nature writing, which sound like pretty disparate topics. Over the course of that semester, I learned about redlining and code switching, read poetry about bears and raccoons, studied various theories on urban sociology, and wrote an essay about riding my bike. Of all of the various things I pondered and learned, a major realization also came about over the course of that semester that I wish I'd encountered Dr. Čapek a whole lot sooner. The next year, my last one at Hendrix, I made it my mission to make up for lost time. I was lucky enough to have Dr. Čapek as a professor for a couple more classes, an academic advisor, an internship supervisor, and a thesis mentor. Whether she was facilitating a discussion in class, fielding one of my desperate pleas for guidance during the thesis process, or doling out advice about my post-Hendrix plans, Dr. Čapek exhibited the same thoughtfulness and dedication. She meets every idea and inquiry with warmth, and yet always challenges her students to go further and to dig deeper. This balance that Dr. Čapek strikes between the critical and the positive is one that she translates to the topics she teaches. She fosters in her students the capacity to examine and question the often very flawed systems and structures that constitute society, while always injecting a sense of hopefulness and providing positive models for change. For me, she herself serves as inspiration for that positive change. Her passion and advocacy for the earth and for the justice of all of its inhabitants have shaped not only my own ideals, but the ways in which I fight for them. Dr. Čapek's curious, vigorous engagement with a wide variety of interests is what I think the liberal arts should be. Always attempting to approach things from a wide variety of perspectives, all the while deepening understanding of the connections between those seemingly different realms and attempting to translate that understanding into action. As a recent graduate, grappling with how best to make use of my passions and skills outside of this campus, Dr. Čapek is a constant in my mind, a model and mentor, an engine for change. No matter where the next years take me, I have no doubt I'll call upon her insight, enthusiasm, and guidance for years to come.
The faculty of Hendrix are the heart of the institution. Stella Čapek is a role model for all of us in supporting and living the college's motto, unto the whole person.
With the authority given to me by the trustees of Hendrix College and upon the recommendation of the faculty, and in recognition of your significant and exemplary work as a member of the faculty, I hereby install you, Dr. Stella Čapek, as the Elbert L. Fausett Distinguished Professor of Sociology with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Stella, it's a real pleasure to recognize you in this way, and we invite you to give your remarks.
Well, I I thank everybody who is here today, whether you were asked to be or whether you came voluntarily. I know how that works here, and I appreciate every single body and mind and spirit that is sitting in this room. I came here sort of covered with sweat because I left my notes in the car and had to run. And so it's all right. I'm always running to get to somewhere. And I started sweating a little toward the end of those wonderful introductions. And I thank you so much. That was really beautiful. I'm going to have to put on my glasses. I'm finally escaping from being bolted down in the chair. And yes, this too can be a sort of near-death experience. I do not love stages, but I'm so appreciative of the occasion, so thank you. So thank you, Bill and Terry and Hendricks College, and especially those who put my nomination forward. Unbeknownst to me, that's kind of a secret process, and except for a few little hints over the years when I might have had a day when I was feeling a little dejected, and someone said, well, you know, you have support. And I think, really? And so it made a community visible that becomes all too easily invisible to us, I think, just because we're so busy, you know, and it's hard to have time to make that community visible. I also feel strongly that many besides me deserve this honor, and I just want to acknowledge them as I stand here. Many of us should, and I hope will share this honor at some point. But it's my turn, I guess, and so I'm really thankful for it. Jay, Hannah, and Henrietta, those were wonderful remarks, and the food theme is not accidental. I know all about your pictures, Henrietta, and I did start posing for them just because it seemed like the right thing to do. I can't see out there very well because the lights are bright. I don't know if Marion Baker is meant to make it here today, but I know she wanted to, and so I want to just honor her with a mention. Marion Baker is the wife of Ferris Baker, whom I replaced, and I'm happy to honor her even with words. At the age of 93, I believe, she's still out there working for social justice, and hasn't her impulse to do that hasn't waned at all, even as the years accumulate. And she sent me some nice congratulations, and wherever she is right now, I want to thank her for that. I also want to acknowledge Jim Bruce, who I did catch a glimpse of back there, who was my colleague for so many years when we were in a department of 2, and then 2+1, my first anthropologist, and that laid the foundation for things that came later. But he was such a great colleague, and I'm happy that you could be here today, and Carolyn too. We had our ups and downs and struggles, of course, as a department of 2 trying to grow, but it was a privilege. And I always tell Jim when I see him, he looks so healthy and whole and balanced since he went into retirement. It's an aspiration for me too. I also wanted to acknowledge my former colleague Ian King, who I caught a glimpse of somewhere out there, who had the inspiration to retire early and write novels, which is another, really wonderful thing. Not that I would be writing novels, but thank you for being here, and Cindy, and various friends who took and Rex Enoch, I think I saw Rex and Nan, who made the effort to come here for Little Rock, and with Rex I had the privilege of teaching in the former, because it doesn't exist right now anymore, but the former adult education program at Heifer International, and that was truly a pleasure and wonderful. So Rex and Nan, thank you so much. And friends and other supporters who made their way here, you know who you are. I'm so appreciative that you would come out on a morning like this and sit through something like this. Thank you so much. And of course my departmental colleagues, all of my colleagues, staff, student, alums, all the people that I've had the privilege and the challenge of trying to work together with on, that's not grammatical probably, but the issue of sustainability and the many forms in which it comes to us here at Hendricks. And of course our support staff, Bobby Engler-Young, the media wizard who has taken many emergency requests from me, and the list would go on and on. The folks who prepare our food, Scott Pickens out there who visits my food culture and nature class and does wonderful presentations there, and they told me most of the food out there is gluten-free, which Mike Flory and others have helped me to negotiate in years when it was harder to do that earlier. So really thanks to everyone. It's true I don't love a stage. I think that will always be true, but for the sake of the occasion, I'm trying to feel the joy that Jay was talking about earlier. I was thinking about this word installation. You know, to me it's kind of an odd word. It sounds like furniture or something of that sort. But it seems a kind of architectural metaphor maybe, but it has a certain sense of solidity to it. And I was just thinking that's, you know, the idea that you're in place and that it feels solid and that you can kind of lean on it in a certain way. That's a nice feeling, I think, for someone like me. So it carries that weight, but I think it's also freeing despite that weight because it does invite you to, well, among other things, to maybe think you could be a little less critical of what you do sometimes on some days, but it also, it frees you, I think, to think about new possibilities because there's a little development fun that comes with it. There's kind of an invitation to, as Bill said, not just finish with things here, but to imagine new possibilities, hopefully new collaborations, and I think he used the word adventure. And I want it to be an adventure. So I'm going to embrace all that with that odd word installation and see what I can. The hardest thing is imagining the time in which to have that adventure, but we get a lot of practice in that kind of act of imagination here. Yeah. So as was mentioned, I came here in 1986, and I'd never been to Arkansas before. But it just so happened that one of my best friends in grad school in Austin, Kathy Kramer, had grown up in Batesville. And when this was advertised, she said, Stella, you really should take that one seriously. I wanted to be at a liberal arts college. I listened to her, and I came here, and the interview felt good. And I ended up staying. It wasn't always my intention. It just kind of sneaks up on you. But there are a lot of reasons why I came and I stayed. First of all, I was hired to teach exactly what I wanted to, with one exception, and Ian King knows what that exception was. It was research methods. Because my colleague, Jim Bruce, said, I won't quote him exactly, but anyway, he said I had to do it. So I did it, but always with trepidation. Then I had the honors several times to co-teach it with Ian. And one time we even had a pretty talented caricaturist in the class who would draw caricatures or cartoons of us as we taught, which weren't always flattering, but they were humorous. So with the exception of that one course, which I gladly relinquished to Mike Miyawaki, my new colleague in sociology, I got to teach everything I wanted to, including the social justice focus. And I felt very freed by that. And so that was one reason why I liked it and I wanted to stay. The second thing is, and I've said this many times here and there, I felt that people treated each other well at this institution compared to some others that I know of, and especially larger ones and very competitive and sometimes not so nice places where the stress is high. I just had a feeling that people treated each other well. And generally that's still true, right, compared to a lot of other places. And I embraced that. I wanted to be at a place where that was true. And of course we were smaller, we had a little more time for each other, a little bit more community-like. But that kept me here. I could feel the difference because I had a lot of colleagues in other places who helped me appreciate that. And I also managed to squeeze out just enough time to write some things that I really care about and occasionally get them published, which is not so easy to do when we are as busy as we are. And I was able to use my research in the classroom and beyond the classroom, and I just like the way those things came together. And I really value the liberal arts context so much. Sometimes we only dream of interdisciplinarity, but we at least get to say the word, and then sometimes actually follow the word to where it can lead. So the way it happened is I was shocked that I'd been here 10 years. I didn't ever really want to go elsewhere. Then 20, then 30. Very shocking, but I stayed. And I've had great colleagues who asked me questions like, as Carol West once did, on a sabbatical leave. She said, why don't you just do what you love? When I was considering teaching a course that I wondered about. Why don't you just do what you love? Okay, maybe I can. So wonderful colleagues in so many ways, and some off-campus opportunities as well. I'm especially thinking of my my friend Lucy Dubose, who is a choreographer and dancer who moved back to Austin, but who, against my inclinations, managed to drag me onto a stage because she got me involved in a breast cancer dance project in Little Rock called Sisters Moving Together for a Cure. And I not only got to do the movement, but I got to read something from Rachel Carson's work that just felt like a beautiful superimposition of written language on the movement. And I was terrified to be on the stage, but I was so honored as I was here today. So there have been lots of things like that, and I'm not going to go through a whole retrospective, but I just wanted to mention a few. Let's be honest though, it's hard to work here. We all know that. We make big promises and we keep them, but often without enough of ourselves or enough resources to go around. So to live unto the whole person is an ongoing and often elusive quest for sustainability, and certainly that's been true for me. But we do see the rewards, and one of the best for me is to see our students develop over the time that we know them. For example, see who they turn into when they leave this place. And that is just such a, just a beautiful thing to see. I get to invite former students to come to my classes, and they can be role models for current students in so many rich ways. And seeing them find their place in the world and knowing that they know how to use some of these things that we've offered them here is wonderful. They also remind us of our age. In the restroom in Mills late yesterday afternoon, I ran into a student whom I eventually recognized, and she told me that her daughter is in my intro class. I just pause at the wonder of that, but I also know what it means in terms of math and the years of age. But that is really one of the wonderful things, and I know many of my colleagues share that sense of just very positive sense of so many different kinds of feelings when we see our students develop and, as I said, find their place in the world. I gave a quote to Rob O'Connor when he asked me for one, when Hendrix put their little story on the webpage, and I said what I really try to do and what's tricky is to encourage students to develop a critical eye, but also cultivate a positive spirit. And that's a hard balancing act, but I really hope I can continue to try to do that. And I think we need that kind of equipment a lot, especially these days. So I know that we have places to go and things to do, and I don't want to prolong this too much for you who are sitting here. I would be so glad to escape off this stage. But when I came in, I could feel like my heartbeat, you know. So I thank everybody. I guess what you see is what you get, sweat and anxiety and all, but deep appreciation for you for coming here and giving your time to this today. And thanks to everyone who's been part of this. And I'll end there just with a big thank you.
We invite you to join us for a reception where we'll see Stella in action. Immediately following the recessional that we held in Trishman Gallery. Now as you go forth, guided by the Spirit, may you find contentment in an honest day's work and fulfillment in personal relationships. May you be filled with inner peace each evening and greet each morning with joy. And may you be grounded in the knowledge that you make a difference to those around you.